Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Providence Money Wisdom Podcast. I'm your host, Isaac, Client Advisor at Provident. Joined with me today is Christopher Tan, Founder and CEO of Provident. Hi Chris, great to have you back.
Hi Zach, it's good to be back from Japan.
Yeah, and today's article is really about your what you experienced in Japan. It's a lot lighter, I would say, as compared to the previous episode. But yeah, nevertheless, it tells quite a powerful and thought-provoking question. And you were just mentioning that compared to your previous article, you actually got a lot more emails regarding this article, surprisingly.
Yeah. So the last article, like we shared the last time, I didn't think that it's going to be controversial, but it ended up being controversial. And I've got, of course, encouragements from the public. Thank you very much. And of course, I gonna beat up until blue-black from the industry. And so I thought, I decided to write something lighter, take a rest, But surprisingly, and I'm really, really grateful that a lot of the readers, they emailed me, some of the friends that I know, they text me, and they encouraged me that it was a really good piece of article. I'm really grateful because when I submitted the article, I actually thought that I could write better, and especially the last paragraph, it took a long time for me to write because I wanted to end well, but I didn't know how to end well, but I'm just grateful that the readers appreciated that piece.
Yeah, I read the piece and it was something that was really thought-provoking. Didn't really think about things. It's something that everyone, when you read the article, you can resonate with it. And it's something that you can relate to, but you don't really think about it. I think that's the best kind of article.
Yeah, I mean, when I was in Japan, and when that incident happened, and if you have not read the article, please read the article. But when that whole incident happened, it really made me introspective and thought about how a lot of times we see things through a certain filter, or we see things through other people's filters, right? So, so I decided to write it as an article, as a point of reflection, not just in life, but also in money management.
Yeah, I think for the sake of our listeners and viewers who did not read the article yet, right, we give them some chance, right? Maybe you can summarize how your trip went, and also, just a brief summary of what you wrote about in the article.
Yeah, so I went for a vacation with my wife and some friends in Hokkaido. It was a road trip, really, really fun, and we went to a few places. I went to this place in Hokkaido called Akan, and then I went to Furano, and then we drove to Niseko, which is very popular with Singaporeans during winter. They go there to ski all the time. So it's a different sight when I went to Niseko because you see things that are green, and also because this is autumn, you see the change of colors. And of course, we ended up in Sapporo before we flew back to Singapore. So this incident actually happened in Niseko. We decided to stay in the Ritz Carlton because off-peak, the price is really good. You cannot get that kind of price when you stay in the Ritz Carlton. And this is not just ordinary Ritz Carlton. This is the Ritz Carlton Reserve. And if you do not know, there are only 8 Ritz Carlton Reserve in the world. So it represents the best of the Ritz Carlton collection, right? And it was at a very good rate.
Yeah, I like how they use reserve like wine. Like that.
Yes,
wine
right.
They always call like
That's
reserve
right.
as
That's right.
better quality.
And it's really, really value for money. I can't say it's cheap, but it's value for money. Okay, so it's like per night it was only about $400 for a room, right? So in winter, forget it. You cannot get this price at all. And so we went to Niseko and we decided to stay in this hotel for 5 days. When we arrived at the hotel, it was wow experience, okay? I mean, if you have been wowed by the Ritz-Carlton experience, this is the reserve, right? The whole hotel only has 50 rooms. So it's very, very private. It's very exclusive. And go and read the article because I don't have time to talk about this in the podcast, but they gave us an excellent experience. We were wowing ourselves. We were talking about it. First day, second day, third day. Then on the third night, the guys, my friends, we decided to go to the bar and drink our favorite Suntory Premium Malt. Straight from the draft, it just tastes different in Japan. And we were enjoying our first few sips. And then suddenly there was this guy that walked past. I didn't write it in the article, but he is a Taiwanese. And he was alone. And we, so being friendly, we said, oh, come take a sit, And then we started chatting. And then we were talking about how great our experience has been in the Ritz-Carlton. And then he shocked us and said, no, it's a lousy hotel. And then he started telling us about all the things that he noticed that isn't that good. And it's amazing, okay, the things that he looked for, we won't even think about it. His criteria is so strict. And then we chatted for about an hour.
I think just to add about this guy, he's someone who stays in a hotel for more than 300 days.
300 nights.
300 nights a year. So just to add a bit of context there as well.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like he spent his whole life and he's been doing it for 3 years already. And the other thing that shocked us was that he was in a hotel the whole time. He didn't even get out of the hotel to see Hokkaido, right? And so we asked him, why don't you go and see the lake, the mountains and all that? And Mount Yote, which is a volcano that last erupted about 1,000 years before Christ. He wasn't even there to see it, no? So he said, no, I just enjoy staying in the hotel. That's my passion. I love to stay in a hotel. So he's like a hotel critic. He's not an influencer, by the way. We thought he writes and then the hotels pay him. He's not, no. He's just doing our passion. And so after 1 hour of chatting, we went to bed. The next morning, everything changed. The guys, we noticed many things that were not perfect. So we started picking. I mean, we didn't pick at the staff, but we were just talking among ourselves at the breakfast table. And then we went out, we started talking about the Ritz Carlton and said, oh yeah, no wonder that guy said this is not good, that's not, yeah, I realized this. And all that until my wife said in a very nice way, effectively, she was saying, stop it, guys, stop it. You've been griping the whole day about the Ritz Carlton, But of course, friends, right? So my wife, if it's just between us, my wife would have just told me, shut up, you have been griping, spoiling the trip. But because my friends were there, she was very nice about it. But she was just saying, hey, I think we should not continue to gripe because actually we have had a good experience. And my wife said she's actually very satisfied with the hotel. And then it made the guys realize that, wow, just one conversation, just an hour, changed everything. What was supposed to be so good, suddenly we started noticing the one black spot on the whiteboard instead of noticing the many patches of white on the whiteboard.
And what was one example of that? Like you griping about something that when you thought about it in hindsight, you're like, that's not really a problem.
Okay, the thing is that about me is I don't like griping and I seldom gripe, honestly. Even when we were talking about the Ritz Carlton, we weren't really griping. We were just saying, oh, no wonder that guy says this is not good. No wonder, he noticed about this and all that. I seldom gripe. But if you want real examples, I quoted one in the article. But it also brought to mind some of the real examples that I know. Right? One example is a friend told me that he has a sort of like a worship leader in church, and because he's trained in music, and when he is in service listening to somebody else lead the worship, instead of enjoying the worship, he was actually picking up all the faults of the musician. I mean, it's not really picking up the faults, but he noticed it, okay, and that affected him. And another example, and this is shared by a pastor, and this pastor shared with me, because pastors, they preach in church. And so he was sharing with me that, sometimes when he sit in a sermon and somebody else preached the sermon, instead of listening to the sermon, he'll be, writing down notes like, okay, if I'm the one preaching this passage, I'm probably not going to preach this way. I'm going to preach in another way, and it's a better way. And actually, then he missed the whole point, because he's supposed to be there to listen to the message, but he's there now to be a critic. So I think that was the gist of the article. But when I wrote it, I was quite worried that people misunderstood it as me saying, no, then don't go and seek knowledge. Don't go and learn new things. Knowledge is bad. But I think that's not the point of the article. But or rather, the point of the article is that if you're not careful, we let knowledge consume us, and knowledge can puff us up, meaning to say it can make us proud. And that, in a way, can cause us to have a lot of blind spots. And also that, in a way, can distract us from the main objective. Somebody just wrote to me this morning, and I think he put it very well. We are missing the woods for the trees. Right? So I think that's the main point of the main thrust, the main objective, the main theme of the article.
Yeah, I don't think you are saying like ignorance is
No,
bliss, and we
No.
should always strive to be ignorant. But I think it's more about finding that balance.
That's right.
And listening to your example, I also can think of a few of myself. Right, I think a lot of your readers also can think of examples for themselves. Right, for myself was when I came back from Japan. The Japanese food there is great. You learn a bit more about the food. Then you come back, you can't enjoy Japanese food as much in Singapore.
Not authentic,
again.
you were saying.
Yeah.
Not authentic.
Or the
when
wasabi
I was
is,
in Japan.
This wasabi is fake one. Like in Japan I got the authentic one, but in the past it was never something that I grabbed about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you in the article you make the link, right? The connection between this experience and finance, right? The example you quoted was how someone who was actually very satisfied with her returns, but then when she found out about what the S&P 500 did, she suddenly said like, is her investment not doing what it's supposed to do? Is it underperforming? Maybe you can share a bit more about that, and how we should think about this kind of things when it comes to looking at our investments.
Yeah, so I think generally speaking, it is always good to have knowledge about your personal financial planning. It's always good to have knowledge about investing, because as you work with your advisor acts a lot more like your coach. And you play golf, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't go to a coach if you don't know how to play, right? You learn how to play first, and then when you play, you go to a coach so that the coach will make you better. But you must have some knowledge of playing golf. And I think that's quite similar for our clients. We do a lot of education. We pass a lot of knowledge to our clients. And the whole reason why we do that is so that as we walk that journey with our clients, when our clients know how to play the game better, it's easier to coach them to become even a better player, quote unquote, as an analogy, in investing, in financial planning. But sometimes knowledge can become a stumbling block, because when you know too much, and when you know too much but you don't have the context, it can stumble you. So in this example that I shared on the paper, it's about this investor. She has a certain objective. She knows she needs a certain amount of returns in order to achieve that objective. She knows the kind of risk appetite that she has. And in investing in that portfolio, she was actually getting the returns that she needs, that enable her to live out her ikigai goals, and at a risk that she is able to withstand. But yet, when she started learning more about the S&P 500, and everybody has been talking about the S&P 500 over the last few years, great returns, and it helped or doesn't help that the S&P 500 has done very well, right, over the recent years. She began to doubt her own portfolio performance. She began to look at portfolio performance and say, no, I think my portfolio has not done so well. I should have just unwind everything and just go and invest in the S&P 500, because her portfolio is a globally diversified portfolio, and some portfolios have bonds. Obviously, you're not going to get the same kind of return like the S&P, because the S&P 500 is 100% equity and a very narrowly focused, quote-unquote, portfolio, single country index. If you are diversified, you are not going to get the same return, right? And that's when she started making all the wrong decisions. Right? She decided that, perhaps I should just invest in the S&P 500. We wish the best for her, because the S&P 500 or any index for that matter may have done well over the last 10 years. There's no guarantee that it will continue to do well in the next 10 years. And if you are invested in a single country index, you've got to be prepared for more volatility. And hopefully you are able to take that volatility and stay invested. Otherwise, yes, you can have the best return from that single index, but if you sell out too early, then you are not going to get a return, right? So the point here is that, yes, by all means, go out there, gain your financial knowledge, gain your investing knowledge. But I think the balance here is you got to ask yourself whether that knowledge applies to your situation. Sometimes it doesn't. You got to ask yourself whether, yes, everybody is talking about this instrument, how good it is. Everybody is talking about their portfolios, they are making money. You got to ask yourself whether this instrument, is it suitable to be in your portfolio based on your situation, based on your context. And the one last thing I'll say is never let knowledge make you proud. Because the moment you have so much knowledge and you think you know everything, then you are not going to be open to anybody else's suggestion. You may just debate for the sake of winning a debate because you have the knowledge to show for. But the side effect is that you could miss many of your blind spots, which otherwise you would have noticed, and that may help you to become a better investor.
Hi listeners, thank you for your ongoing support. Some long-time listeners might know that the inspiration behind this entire podcast was our CEO, Chris's Money Wisdom book. We're proud to announce that we have launched our second edition of the book titled Money Wisdom Part 2, More Simple Truths for Financial Wellness. If you're interested in getting your very own copy, please check out the link in the show notes for more information. Thank you, and let's get back to the episode. Right, and I think the dangerous part about this mindset is that, she might not even stop at the S&P, right? The more she learns, she's like, oh, actually the Nasdaq probably did better than the S&P.
Or last quarter, the Bitcoin is very good, and then I buy Bitcoin.
Then Bitcoin, right? Gold.
Yeah, now it's gold.
Yeah, to the extent, or maybe it might even be just picking individual stock positions like Nvidia. It's like, oh, okay, if you... So I think that's one of the dangers. And Chris, it also reminds me of an article that I read. It's a Fidelity study on debt investors. I'm sure you have read that as well.
No, I have not read.
Oh,
see, I am not as knowledgeable. That helps me.
well, basically the study was talking about how when Fidelity looked at all the brokerage accounts that they had, they realized that the best investors were the investors that were dead.
Oh.
Okay, so like those that have passed, those investors that
physically
passed away, physically dead,
oh, really?
they didn't close the account for whatever reason, and it turns out that they were the best performers, and the second best performers were the ones that forgot they even invested, right? And the worst performers were those that were trading the most, that were perhaps maybe the most knowledgeable. I mean, it's not that hard to be more knowledgeable than someone who is not around anymore, but someone who is very in the know about what's going on in the markets and all that, and they trade accordingly. So I guess that's one study that comes to mind when you're sharing about the example. Yeah,
I mean, I can definitely identify with that, right? I used to manage my three sisters' portfolio, and I think I told this story before. It was just after the GFC, and all my sisters are not investment savvy, so they each gave me some money to invest, and I just bought an index for them, and after a while I stopped buying because I was so busy. I told them, no, I can't do it anymore. Then all four of us forgot about it. And then many years later, like 10 years later, they asked me, hey, so how's our portfolios doing? And then I went like, oh shucks, I totally forgot about it. And then I went to check the brokerage account, and it has gone up 100%. And I became like a hero. But actually the only reason why the portfolios did so well was because I forgot about it. So exactly what you have said.
Yeah. But I think it's always, as with everything, is about finding that balance, and really to know the context, right? I mean, for your example, it's because you invested in an index, right? We're not saying that, just buy one stock and forget about it. You can, the
not
stock
even just buy one index. That may
Yeah.
not do the job. Like again, we use the S&P 500 as an example.
Yeah, but nevertheless, I mean, in life is really about finding that balance. And really, the next question I want to ask is, how do you, of course, for people who read your article, they are thinking, okay, maybe I should shift my mindset, right? But how do we balance the way that we shift it when it comes to, whether it's in life or how we approach investing? How do we find that balance that, yes, knowledge is important, but at the same time, too much knowledge could be detrimental?
Yeah, I think I said it in the article as well. I mean, a lot of times people say that knowledge is power, but knowledge is not power. It is the application of knowledge that is power, right? So that's one. Secondly, knowledge gives you information, but applying knowledge correctly gives you wisdom, right? So, or you need wisdom to apply knowledge. So go out there, I mean, read as much as you like, read as much as you need, go attend conferences, attend talks, join communities. I think all these things are very good. Gain as much knowledge, but I think we must have the wisdom to decide how to use this knowledge. Not every piece of knowledge is true. Not every piece of knowledge that you have learned is good for you, right? And not every piece of knowledge is relevant. right? So I think we need to sit down and ask ourselves, actually, what am I trying to achieve? What am I trying to do? Right? And it goes back to the philosophy of sufficiency in Provident, right? And the philosophy of sufficiency is the philosophy of enough. It is the philosophy of knowing that you have enough. And we said that the philosophy of sufficiency is not a passive acceptance. It's not like I resign to my fate, but it is an active pursuit of what is most important for you, and then deciding and knowing that you cannot have everything. And then if you have the most important things, then you are okay because you know that there is no way you can have everything in life, right? So we first must have that heart of that philosophy of sufficiency, the heart of contentment, to decide, okay, look, what am I trying to achieve? I know I cannot achieve everything. Now, I want this, I need this, right? Now, all the knowledge that I gather, how do they fit into helping me achieve what I want? And if we take one step back, maybe there is also no need to go out there and gain some other knowledge. Focus on the knowledge that you need because we don't have time, right? That brings to mind a story. It's a real story. My kids were very young. I brought both of them to Kinokuniya. I remember we stepped into the entrance of Kinokuniya Orchard, and I asked my kids, I said, look, what do you see? And they said, books, plenty of books. Then I asked them, do you think you're able to read all these books in your lifetime? And they said, no way, Pa, no way. How to read so many books in our lifetime? And I said, well, the good news is you don't have to. There are many of these books that are totally irrelevant. Magazines, for example, they are irrelevant in your lives. You first need to find those books that are really relevant for you and will add value, right? I mean, I can't say I love. I cook. I cannot say I love cooking now. But with the limited time that I have, I'm not going to read cookbooks. But there may come a season of my life whereby, when I'm retired, I will start buying cookbooks. But in this season of my life, I need to decide what are the most important things. What are the books that I read that will help Provident to become a better company, right? So I will find these books. So in your seeking out of your knowledge, I think the first step is to decide what you want. Then you seek out the knowledge that is relevant for you. And then if you are gaining a lot of knowledge, you also want to decide which are the knowledge that you can apply. And again, back to the same thing. Never ever let being knowledgeable make you proud. That will be your downfall.
Right. And I think the next question will be a bit tougher. So it's really on your point about this, but really more specifically to someone who feels overwhelmed, right, by all the financial information that they have read. Someone who has read all the investment books, someone who is following all the most famous financial bloggers, content creators, and of course the experts that they watch on CNBC or Bloomberg, right? So what specific advice would you give to someone who feels overwhelmed with all this knowledge? Someone who knows that global diversification is important, but then there's also small caps, and there's also value stocks, there are bonds, and there's different term and credit premiums, so on and so forth. So it gets very overwhelming for them. If they are sitting down here today where I'm sitting, what will you tell them? And how should they kind of balance it out with what you have shared and your experience in Japan?
Yeah, I'll say start first with an investment philosophy. I know that sounds really conceptual, very vague, very philosophical, but always start with an investment philosophy. What is an example of investment philosophy? An example of investment philosophy is you ask yourself, do you believe that you can beat the stock market? Or do you believe that it is very difficult to beat the stock market? That's an example of a philosophical question. Another question you can ask yourself is, do you need to beat the stock market? Or actually, even without trying to beat the stock market, the average return of the stock market is actually enough for you, right? So start first with an investment philosophy. Once your investment philosophy becomes clear, then seek out that knowledge that helps you execute that philosophy. Right? So I'll give you an example of another philosophical question where investment philosophy is concerned. Do you believe in diversification? Or do you believe in taking concentrated bets? right? So these are all philosophical questions. And after you have studied into this area, go into the body of knowledge of this area, go find evidence, whether actively managing a portfolio is better, or staying invested is better, concentrated is better, or diversification is better, what are pros and cons. And after you have studied the body of knowledge, you form your philosophy. Once you are very clear with the philosophy, for example, in Providence investment philosophy, we obviously believe that it is very difficult for managers to beat the market, and for those who do it, they cannot do it consistently. We believe in diversification because it's actually very difficult to guess which sector, which region will do better. We believe that the average return of the market is good enough for our clients. Right? This is we came with an investment philosophy. So we focus our body of knowledge on that philosophy, and we build up that knowledge. And then with that knowledge, we can build the portfolios, and then so on and so forth. So I'll say, start first with deciding your philosophy, but don't ignore, after you have built up that philosophy, don't ignore the other side of the world. I mean, it's not like at Provident, we don't look at crypto, we don't look at gold, we don't look at active managers. And the last conversation that we had, it is not that we don't look at ILPs, right? Although for now, we don't use it, we don't agree with it, but it's not that we don't look at it. If there come a time down the road that certain instruments that we have ignored in the past is now relevant, we use it, right? But you must first have a philosophy to anchor all your thinking on. Then you look out. I always say this, philosophy is about your stand. If you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. So you don't have a philosophy, everything is good. This investment is good, crypto is good, gold is good, I don't know what else, private equity, private credit, everything is good. Then it's just rojak. Rojak is only good as a dish. In many parts of life, rojak may not be that good. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that's a good place to end it. With that rojak analogy, it just came out of nowhere. It took me by surprise because you were so serious all the way until you said that.
Yeah. Now I don't know whether I use the best analogy because some people may.
Rojak is not bad as a standalone dish.
Okay. Maybe I take my words back because
think of something else before we end
some
it.
of you will say that no, rojak also quite good. Some things rojak is not bad. Yeah, but you know what I mean, right? I mean, you can rojak some areas of our life. I mean, your life, but we cannot rojak everything. So the point here is have a philosophy. And perhaps I will answer one question that you asked me that you didn't ask because maybe we ran out of time. And that is, what's the one thing? If I want to send out to the listeners, I thought a bit about it upstairs just now. And it's this, knowledge puffs up. Be careful. But love covers all. You can have the knowledge, but if you don't have love, it means nothing. And this does not necessarily apply to money management. It applies to life. I thought about this because when we were at Ritz Carlton at Iseko, the service staff there, the many things that they did for us, we could experience their genuine care for us. Of course, they are very well trained. Can't hide that. I mean, I salute the Ritz Carlton staff. I mean, they are really, really well trained. They are so attentive to every of our need. So yes, but we could also feel the sincerity. They weren't just ticking boxes. They were doing it out of love. They were really putting in all their effort. And then with that little knowledge we fought them, that we had the night before, we started picking up things that they don't do. You see, knowledge puffs up. But love covers all, because if we appreciate the people, and they are from different countries. Some of them are from Nepal. We spoke to one from Philippines. We spoke to another guy from Sri Lanka. And they came from humble backgrounds, and they all came and they worked together as a team just to please us. And they put in the effort. Surely it covers up for all the little stingy things that we are, or things that we are so stingy about, right? Surely it covers all. So knowledge puffs up, Love covers all. And never let knowledge, when you become very knowledgeable, makes you so proud that you don't love people. I think that's the message I want to send.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Chris, and also thanks for sharing your reflection on your Japan trip. Let me just check whether I missed any other questions. No, I was just thinking.
No, you don't want to ask me the question. Yeah.
I was thinking like, oh, okay, when you're talking about the philosophy, you end off. I thought like, okay, that was a good way to end. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, when we have knowledge, we also have to make sure that knowledge is power, right? But the thing is, we want to make sure that we don't abuse the power, or we don't be overly critical, and and just learn to appreciate life as it is, lah. To all our listeners, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and share with all your friends, right? This is the orders from my boss, but please share with all your friends. Every episode we always say please like and subscribe, but
they must because the last time I invited my friends and they said that, oh, thank you for inviting me to a podcast that nobody has heard, and I was like, what? So you gotta help us share.
Yeah, and also we are keeping an eye out on the subscriber count, so please subscribe as well. So as always, thank you all for listening, and I'll see you all in the next episode. All analysis, views or opinions from interviews, recommendations and other information broadcasted, podcasted or published herein are provided for general information purposes only. Information expressed does not take into account any specific situation, particular needs or objectives, and should not be construed as specific advice or a recommendation. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal or tax professional before taking any action. Provident Limited does not accept any liability for any loss whatsoever arising from any use of the information broadcasted or published herein. All contents and information contained herein may not be copied or reproduced in whole or in part by any means without prior written consent of Provident Limited.